And greetings! Happy Friday! Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd and Aaron McIntyre. Going to be joined by our good friend, FBI whistleblower Steve Friend, here in a moment for the Deace Group. I am Steve Deace. Quick little programming note for Feedback Friday next hour. I'm going to share notes on both sides of the Tucker Huckabee thing. And I want to explain to you guys, because I always try to do this, I always try to be as forthright and transparent as I can possibly be. You know, my motto is, provided it doesn't betray a third-party confidence, I'll pretty much tell you everything I possibly can when I can. All right? So I want you guys to understand why we're doing some of the things with this debate that we're doing and why we're handling some things the way that we are handling them. And I'm going to take some time while reading these notes to explain that to you guys. Coming up next hour for Feedback Friday. But first, before we get there, of course, it's time for the Deace Group. And there is our good friend, Steve Friend. Brother, how are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me on today.
Tell our audience again how they can find your content when you're not on our show.
Well, when I'm not blessed to be on the Steve Deace Show, you can always check me out over at my podcast, which is called the American Radicals Podcast at AmRadPod, and that's available on Spotify and YouTube and Rumble.
Well, we're always pleased to have you with us. It's not often. We love all of our guest panelists. Few of them can say they were a hero to the Republic. You are one of those. So it's always good to have you with us. So let's begin. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with Issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
And tonight, I defy Trump and his authoritarian project by standing in joyful, radical, peaceful resistance with the Portland Frog Brigade.
You know, I'm a 960 SAT guy.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
There are a couple things about that. One is, once we get on, if we were to go down that path, it's very hard to pivot and get back to open up the government. I frankly think we ought to. We need to make sure the DHS, TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA, all those agencies are funded. And so I'm hopeful there will be a breakthrough on that. That's going to require some obviously cooperation from the Democrats, which we haven't seen a lot of so far. But we want to get to the SAVE Act. We also, as I mentioned, we've got a housing bill that we can pivot back and forth to if we get a deal to open up the government.
Literally lived on Stouffer's lasagna, macaroni and cheese. I got finished, 2 pots of macaroni and cheese.
That's harder to do once you're in the throes of a talking filibuster. The talking filibuster issue is one on which there is not certainly a unified Republican conference, and there would have to be.
I don't know where your birth certificate is?
If you go down that path, you're talking about the need to table what are going to be numerous amendments and an ability to keep 50 Republicans unified pretty much on every single vote. And there isn't support for doing that at this point.
I'm no better than you. I cannot read a speech.
You too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork.
As I've said, and we will get on it, and we will have a vote on the SAVE Act. The context of that, the process in which we consider it is still an open question, but one that we're having conversations about, but clearly not a unified position, at least among Republicans in the Senate.
You have been hanging around the Senate button. How about him?
There he is.
Oh yeah, and the senator came too.
We're gonna storm the White House with love and compassion. And at the end of the night, we're gonna storm Applebee's.
Todas no pueden encarcelarnos a todas. No pueden encarcelarnos a todas.
all. No fighting in Castellanos told us. Imprison us all. They cannot imprison us all. Woo! Okay. I think I did okay, music.
You did amazing.
We needed that yakety sax right there. That was a palate cleanser. That was unlike any bleep Lord Nefarious Says we have ever had in the history of this segment. And I think we needed that. I do.
You're inspired?
I strangely do feel
You're
better.
lifted up by that?
I do. I strangely do feel better than I did 5 minutes ago.
I'm reaching for the gun.
Yes. I mean, I needed to be reminded that what the devil hates the most is to be mocked. And Aaron did a fine job of it by literally just showing themselves. All right.
Just the last 2 weeks, Bleep Lord Nefarious says, and it literally ended with a pile of dead bodies at the hands of trainee terrorists.
Correct.
And there was nothing approaching that this week, and so I'm just not going to dignify
except for the
that.
trainee lawmaker who's got a pile of abused children.
Yes, there's that.
There's that. Yeah. Yeah. Which is not my shocked face at that news. All right, Mr. Friend, you get the first crack at it. What stood out to you the most and why?
Well, you have to go with Senate Majority Leader John Thune there. And we've talked about it before on the program, how we are engaged in a cold civil war at this point, and we are having an irreconcilable difference between the two sides, where one side, the conservative libertarian side, says, well, you know, we all want the same thing. You might have a yard sign for a different candidate, but as long as you mow your grass, we can all just get along. And the other side is the Borg from Star Trek. That which not is banned is required. You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. And you contrast what he's doing up there, where they can't just seem to come together and recognize what time it is, with Gavin Newsom, who can have a conversation in front of a predominantly African-American audience and tell them,
you can't read.
That I'm just like you and I'm illiterate and functionally retarded, and think that that is the way that he's going to ascend to power and be confident in that. This is an irreconcilable difference, and unfortunately, leadership that we have from the Republicans in high prominence from the legislature at a House and Senate level just doesn't recognize the battlefield conditions.
I've got
depressed yet?
I've got to do another hour and 52 minutes, and I just think that Steve's just said everything that needs to be said today, right? Aaron, can we just do the live reads in a block and then just sign off? I mean, that's really all the company really cares about anyway, right?
Yep.
It's the live reads. They don't care about us. We're just here for the live reads, right? That's
money.
how we all make our money.
Yeah.
Because I can't come up with better content than the last minute and a half of what you just heard from Steve. That sums literally everything up. So Todd, I want to make you try. Go ahead.
It's because he was picking up what Aaron was laying down. No, it's obviously John Thune, because it's in relation to all of that ridiculous stupidity that John Thune goes full emperor has no clothes. You see, well, we have to work with these people, the middle ground kind of conversation. I mean, the emperor had no clothes, and Mike Pence called and said, dude, could you, figure this thing out? It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And the fact that it's not cause to instantly have to resign out of shame. And what's it called when the Sudoku, where the Japanese fall on their swords? Is that what it's called? Seppuku. Not Sudoku. Sudoku is like the game. The game, yes. Seppuku. It's that pathetic. And that's the biggest problem. The degree to which our norms are just this flaccid nonsense. And yeah, it is. The laugh track is it's almost all we got. The moment is ripe for just a normal dude, your random normal dude anywhere, to be in that position and just say, yeah, we're taking our damn country back. But there's no random normal dudes there.
The shot of Thune, I don't know who the guy is on his right, and then Langford is the guy on his left, right? Those three Republicans, do they strike you as wartime conciliary? They strike you as battlefield generals? Like you take a look at that visual and you're thinking to yourself, I'm ready to Braveheart right here. I mean, is that the vibe? We are approaching procedure on the 46th codicil and lowering sperm counts with every syllable I speak.
But Napoleon was like 5'5", a bucko, whatever. He wanted to rule. These guys have a totally different agenda going on.
John Thune's like 6'5".
It doesn't matter what they look. It matters what they want.
Yeah. Aaron, your turn. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like Senate Majority Leader Bill Lumbergh. How's it going?
That
Save
TP
America
186 form.
Act?
Did you fill that thing out? Yeah.
I'm gonna not do anything.
Yeah.
There might be a housing bill that we could get to on Saturday, and
Yes.
then we could toggle back and forth, but only if we reach a deal with the Democrats to reopen the government. So, yeah.
Meanwhile, they're storming Applebee's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever that means. I just want to reiterate to everybody again, this is a key point here, what I'm about to share with you. If your senator is telling you they're for the SAVE Act, but is not for the talking filibuster, they're lying to you. And you're being scammed. Because without the talking filibuster, there's no way to get a critical amount of votes to make it actually become a law. So if your senator, you need to ask your senator, are you for the talking filibuster? Or what we used to actually call a filibuster. That's actually what it, we trans the filibuster too. That's actually what it means. Okay. So you need to ask your senators, are you for the talking filibuster? Not the zombie filibuster. And if and that's the question you need to ask them. Do not call their offices or email them asking if they're for the SAVE Act. You need to ask them if they're for the talking filibuster. Right? I mean, you can have people break into your home. You can look at your wife and say, I am for protecting you. But if I'm not willing to use any means by which such an act would be performed, she's probably going to doubt your sincerity at that point as she's getting assaulted, I'm guessing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're telling her you're not doing anything, but I'm telling her I'm for protecting you while you're doing nothing to protect her, right? So without the talking filibuster, the SAVE Act cannot become law. They'll bring it up for a vote. It's just a show vote, like the 52 times they voted on Obamacare repeal that were all show votes. You need to ask your senator, are you for the talking filibuster? Because without that, it can't become law.
And also, the fact that this isn't even cloak and dagger, they're saying like one thing stridently out. Well, he's not holding his AR-15 like they often do, and then in the background they're doing it. They are publicly saying this kind of thing, which means they have the backing of the RNC in a midterm year. They want to lose, apparently.
They're going to get there if we don't pass this.
Apparently?
Apparently,
Todd?
Yeah. What it will take to survive these midterms if we don't make this law are circumstances, frankly, I can't foresee as being possible. Doesn't mean they're not possible. I couldn't present to you what circumstances that would be. Not today. Maybe I can on July 27th, but on February 27th, I cannot. Let's get to the exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being how likely it is that I won't have a single Shamrock Shake over the next few weeks, and 10 being how many of them I will likely have. Rank this week's level of total depravity, Steve.
Well, MAGA/Maha said that glyphosate needs to be back in our food and Ozempic government subsidized, so let your freak flag fly and go with 10.
When I go to McDonald's later today, I'm just gonna, hey, can I get some green glyphosate? With some whipped cream on top? They're like, what?
I have so many.
That's what I'm going to ask for, straight up. Green glyphosate.
Are you going to ask his green glyphosate people?
Yes. I have so many reasons to want to be president, and one of them is just first order of business. I just want to call Steve Friend. What job do you want? Anything. I don't care. I want him to be my Marco Rubio. Do all the jobs.
What number? What number is your total? Is it 10? Really? Okay. All right. Aaron 10. Tried to lighten the mood, and Todd is still at a 10. Go ahead.
I did not try to lighten the mood. I was just trying to refocus the mood.
Okay.
10.
You're at a 10 too. All right.
The leader of the Republican Party wants to lose the midterms. That's
in the Senate.
In the Senate.
Yeah, it wants the Senate wants to lose the midterm.
That's a 10.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, I don't have a retort to that. I've got nothing.
Well, if you put it that way.
You know what? Now I'm getting a large glyphosate green this afternoon. All right. Supersize it. They still do that at McDonald's. I don't. It's the one time a year I go there is when they have Shamrock Shakes. I don't go there the rest of the year. I have no clue. Do they still do supersize or not?
I don't
know.
Drink Shamrock Shakes.
Okay. All right. Let's get to issue 2, defining the debate.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
You know, it dawns on me that moment, I didn't realize it at the time when I was helping to cover the State of the Union for the Blaze. That moment came with a little bit more risk than I guess I realized. I mean, I don't think the odds were going to be very high, but they weren't in zero. What happens if all but 10 Democrats stand up? That could have happened. That could have happened.
We talked about this.
Oh, did we?
When you were gone.
Oh, okay. You guys. Okay.
I think this was a win-win. If everybody stands up and then in the future just acts like they were, you just remind them, what? Why were you
go back? So
clapping?
you're going to vote for the Save Act tomorrow then?
Yeah,
It's kind of a thing. Okay, I get you.
I don't think he could lose.
Okay, good point. All right, let's get to the first question. Sorry about the little digression there. Could this be the defining question of the 2026 midterms, Todd?
Yeah, yes, but this is the thing. When we talked about it with Daniel, and I asked him specifically about the SAVE Act, was enough done in the speech itself to send a message? It's one thing sending a message to the people. Then you have to ask the question, who's all watching it? But then is the message sent to the powers that be? And this goes back to what we just talked about with John Thune. It could be if it applies to them and if Donald Trump has made sure it applies to them. So, I can see both sides of the coin, and one of them is just John Thune, and that's not going anywhere.
So walk me through. Listen, I still believe they're going to pass this, and I do believe we'll get the talking filibuster to pass it. And it's precisely because I don't have any faith in them that I think they're going to do it, right? And it's the analogy I keep bringing up. This is Merrick Garland, Mitch McConnell all over again. If they don't do this, then the whole scam that keeps us voting for these Republicans all these years is totally blown sky high. There's just John Thune is not going to be able to go out there and say, it's too late now. This is into the water table of our base. Our base all knows this. He's not going to go out there and be able to go, hey, we need to keep a Republican Senate to get the SAVE Act. Well, you had a Republican Senate and couldn't do the SAVE Act, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I'm still on record. I still believe in the end for this reason, because their grift, it does matter. It's because of their grift and that it matters more to them than the country that I think they will do it to protect their grift. All right. So they'll do the right thing for all the wrong reasons. Okay. But let's say I'm wrong. Going out there post Labor Day, hey, we got to make sure to retain the Republican Senate so we can protect the integrity of elections. Like when you didn't protect the integrity of elections with the Republican Senate, I think that actually becomes a negative reinforcer. Your own messaging, while attempting to be positive, spurs your portions of your base to not vote because you just keep reminding them that you're rubbing their nose in it. You know what I'm saying? I know the president had a meeting yesterday about how to do this via executive action if the Senate won't act. And I sincerely appreciate that he's willing to do that, but I am also concerned that will also backfire. In that, first of all, I don't think that will hold up with any court scrutiny on any level whatsoever. One unilateral act by a president defining the election policies for all 50 states. You think that's going to hold up? I don't think that's going to hold up. Before we even get to the argument of whether it should, I don't think that it will. Anybody want to differ with me on that?
I understand what you're saying.
I think John Roberts is going to just sign off on a president, just particularly one he probably didn't vote for, just with one stroke of a pen defining the voting policies of all 50 states? Because I don't think that will happen. All right. And then you run into a situation where if you do that and then the courts say you can't and it doesn't get implemented, then Trump is left, and I know he's maybe the greatest pitchman in American history, but now he is left going on the campaign trail this fall saying, well, I need you to vote for all these Republicans that wouldn't do what we did, that we can't do because I tried to do it myself, but the court said I couldn't because these guys wouldn't do it for you. I mean, I don't know. How do you pitch that?
I understand.
How do you pitch that?
I understand what you're saying, but the Mitch McConnell thing for me, the other side that I see is Mitch McConnell was trying to get to the other side of Donald Trump in a first.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point because they all thought Trump was going to lose in 2016. That is true. Yes.
And also the other side with a VP that was reminded them of themselves. Mike Pence, a guy we can work with. Now Trump managed to come out clean on the other side of impeachment, numerous assassination attempts. And
much to Mitch McConnell's disappointment, I'm sure.
And on the other side of Donald Trump this time, instead of Mike Pence, is J.D. Vance. And they're like, we got to torpedo this whole thing. And they'd rather do that because they hate us so much.
That's a good argument I had not thought about because it is true. Listen, everybody thought Trump was going to lose in 2016. The Trump campaign was calling people like me on election night to go ahead and preemptively explain why they lost. They didn't think they were going to win either, okay? So that could also be that was a long-term play by Ditch thinking Trump's going to lose anyway. We got to keep our grift in play. Yeah. That's black, man. That is a black pill, brother.
You're welcome.
You didn't get your lightsaber fight in. That's not you and Waukee that was making that went viral here locally the other night?
No.
The lightsaber fight in the middle of the half a foot of snow, that wasn't you?
I do not live in the lush suburbs of Waukee.
Okay. All right, Aaron, what say you? Go ahead.
So is this the defining issue of the midterms? Yes, if Mike Pence has the courage.
See.
I'm sorry, if John Thune has the courage. Yeah.
If Mike Pence has the courage meme, I'm all in on that, by the way.
If we go down that path, we need to reopen the government. And then we might be able to toggle back and forth between this housing bill that there's a lot of support for. And we want to get to the same.
I want to cut myself right now.
See, that's why
I want to cut myself right now.
I'm really proud of the rest of the three of us because Steve right now, optimistic, a little bit of a spring in his step.
It's 65 out there.
The three of us.
Shamrock Shakes are out.
The three of us have committed to breaking you at the end of this day. Steve, what you got on that front? Go, Steve, friend, go.
This is not the defining issue, I don't think, of 2026. Look, I didn't watch the State of the Union live. I watched wrestling reruns with my 8-year-old son because it's far better K-fob for me. But I think you need to look at the State of the Union as what it kind of is, as analogous to a pep rally. This is the pep rally for Michigan versus Ohio State. If Michigan's 5-5 going to play Purdue tomorrow, they're not packing the house for the pep rally. They might not even have one. And certainly you're not going to bring in everybody. But throw out all the records when it's the game. Yep. We got Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow. You're going to bring in the diehards. You're going to bring in the casual fans that just tune in once a year, and they're going to try to convince those fans that we need you tomorrow. And then we go to the game. And if the game comes around and you take the opening kickoff and you go 3 and out, punt it away, and give up a 78-yard, 12-page drive in which the Buckeyes don't even face a third down, people are turning the channel off. The diehards are sitting on their hands. So what does that all mean? There needs to be results. The results that we haven't seen so far. We need to see the mass deportations. We need to see actual government gangsters in handcuffs, including if they work for your administration. And unless we get those results, I'm just going to turn on wrestling.
Who wants to react to what he just said?
That he just summed up your entire career, more or less. I mean, that which means we aren't really dealing with a new problem. John Thune is same as it ever was, and which means that it's the fact that it's digging in harder in the face of greater. I mean, there is real reasons why psychologically America just could not be bothered with Republican talking points back in the day when you started. Right now, if you do it really well, even if it's not always for the right reasons, there's just opportunity everywhere for wins. They won't take them because they don't want them.
Aaron?
Mitch McConnell never really went anywhere. Technically, on paper, he's not the Senate Majority Leader anymore, but Mitch McConnell is still in control. It's just he's possessing a body that doesn't fall over and glitch out as often. That's all. And that's not meant as a pejorative necessarily. It's just describing. It's just descriptive. At the end of the day, the same mantra that is really true and we really mean it is applicable here. You just can't go on forever where an entire voting bloc keeps voting for people who hate them. And as much as it seems like we're going to try to find out the answer to that question, can that go on forever? It cannot hold forever. And there are far more people. The difference is there are far more people now in the year 2026 than there were in the year 2006 who I think are alert to that, though I don't think it's nearly enough.
I mean, I think that we're at that juncture right now. We've been at that juncture the last few years. How much we underperformed in the 2022 midterms despite that environment. How poorly we did in the off-year special elections in 23 and 24. The Republican coalition is largely broken. There is a MAGA coalition that shows up in droves when Trump is on the ballot. But the rest of the Republican coalition has kind of made it known that it doesn't want to be in coalition with the rest of the Republican coalition. So I think we're already at that juncture now. I think we've seen that. We've seen actual results play out along those lines over the last few years of elections when Donald Trump's name is not on the ballot. When his name is not on the ballot, there is a level of responsiveness and turnout that is dramatically diminished from when his name is. Let's get to the exit question. If how effective Trump was at re-energizing our base in his speech were the title of a top song from a female artist in the 1990s, which of these would it be? A, Take a Bow by Madonna, as in a magnum opus of rallying, pep rallying the troops, as Steve described. B, Wanna Be by Spice Girls, as in you tried hard, but just couldn't quite get there. Or C, Weak by Sisters with Voices. That title, kind of self-explanatory. Aaron.
I think for now I'm still at an A, but John Thune is doing his best to make it anything but that.
Yeah, I think the speech itself, I think I would give you the same answer as you. The night itself was a clear A. It's what's transpired over the last, going on 72 hours since that has reached again that point of diminishing returns for me. Todd, what about you?
Exact same answer.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, there as well. I think that it's a question of whether or not the elected Republicans got elected to do something or just to be something, and that's going to be through Trump's will at this point to force it across the goal line, particularly on the SAVE Act.
I'm wondering, is there a play here? We got about a minute. Is there a play here that the president could make that is achievable and realistic that would work? Like, what if he did a national address from the Oval Office saying, hey, Republican or Democrat, so he doesn't just single the Republicans out, Republican or Democrat, an overwhelming amount of Americans want our elections to be secure and have integrity. And right now, we're the only major democracy in the world that cannot say that doesn't operate with paper ballots and photo ID. Even all these left-wing countries in Europe that hate my guts do it. Okay? Well, we need you right now to make sure, regardless of which side you're on, that we have safe and secure elections. And you need to call your senator, Republican or Democrat, right now and make sure that they do not use the filibuster to hide behind the fact we're not going to have safe and secure elections in America. Would that work, do you think?
I'm not betting the house or anything close to it on it. No.
On it working?
Yeah.
I don't think it would work, but it's worth trying.
I would float the idea of, as I've suggested before, if you guys do not pass this, I am right now going to endorse J.D. Vance as the next president of the United States.
Now that's interesting.
And take you totally out of the loop of whoever you want in it to replace me.
Now that's an interesting play. Huh. I think we all agree. Some play's going to have to be. Yeah. It has to be made. Some play does.
Yes.
All right, we'll come back. There's been another assassination attempt, and it was on page 16E. We'll discuss it next.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Todd and Aaron McIntyre. FBI whistleblower Steve Friend here with us on your weekly look at the week that was, which marches on and continues on with issue 3, another assassination attempt.
We woke up Sunday morning to a report from the Secret Service that a man was shot and killed overnight Saturday into Sunday after allegedly breaching the secure perimeter of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. The incident occurred around 1:30 a.m. when the suspect made an unauthorized entry through the north gate of the resort as another vehicle was exiting. The man has been identified as 21-year-old Austin Tucker of North Carolina. The suspect was observed carrying what appeared to be a shotgun and a fuel can. Agents and a deputy from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office confronted him. According to TMZ, Tucker had become radicalized and disturbed in recent days by discourse over the Epstein files.
All right, Aaron, you have a side-by-side, right? All right. Am I missing something? Or could these guys be at least cousins? Is one of these guys just like the cooler older brother to the other guy? And the other guy's just kind of the dorkier younger brother that never quite was as smart or as athletic as his older brother was and kind of leaned into the nerd all the more? Am I missing something? You tell me. You're looking at it. What do you think?
Oh, I just think it's what you talk about all the time with the young men. I mean, the more you make them feel powerless, a lot of them are going to lash out in ways that simply aren't productive. I think more than the looks, I think it's pretty certain that these guys just do not have a structure in their lives that is teaching them how to be a man.
Aaron, you think these guys look alike at all?
Yes,
I do too.
But I think a lot of young men this age look alike.
Okay. Well, those white guys look alike.
That's an entire can of worms as well.
Yes, it is. All right. Steve Friend, you're our FBI guy here. How did this guy get past the initial security perimeter at Mar-a-Lago? How did this happen?
Well, there unfortunately exists a myth of competence as it pertains to law enforcement and security, for that matter, at a federal government level. There's a huge matter here of good enough for government work is rampant throughout all agencies. It's not just at Housing and Urban Development or the Department of the Interior. That exists at the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security. But because those lines of work lend themselves to Hollywood, all the TV shows and the movies out there let people come to the false conclusion that everybody is just tip of the spear and best of the best. And unfortunately, it's just not true. I mean, I think when you look at it, the president himself was not present there. They probably didn't have the A team there. They probably rolled out the JV team. They probably rolled out the JV overnight team there as well. And when you have all of those combinations coming in, and there's been fall-offs in the recruiting efforts, there's been fall-offs in the training efforts from what I'm learning at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Brunswick, Georgia, then that will compound itself and lead to a potentially catastrophic mistake that fortunately that local robust law enforcement was able to address.
How is this possible? How is what you just said possible? This is the third assassination attempt, at least we know of. Given that, how is everything you just said even possible to be remotely true? How?
It's misplaced priorities. Look, you can comment on those two guys looking a lot alike, and it is true. The look is not necessarily that they have glasses and they're white guys in a certain age demographic. They're emotionally disturbed people. And emotionally disturbed people present an imminent threat sometimes, but for the most part, the way they're viewed through the prism of our federal government and federal law enforcement is opportunity. The FBI has a playbook that it loves to run on emotionally disturbed people, people down their luck, they're indigent, they're vulnerable. And what they like to do with those people is they like to introduce confidential human sources, eventually undercovers, and groom those people, particularly young men, particularly young online men, and in growing numbers, particularly online young men under the age of 18, into doing some of the worst ideas possible that they were not predisposed or even capable of carrying out, but for the involvement of our federal government, particularly the FBI. And then when they do that, they spring the mousetrap and then congratulate themselves on stopping terrorism from happening. And the American people just take it on its face as being true. And that is the priority, because when they look at the American people as an opportunity rather than the customer, rather than the citizens who they're theoretically supposed to protect against fraud and force, and that includes the President of the United States, he's still a citizen, then there's a misplace of priorities, and no man can serve two masters.
All right, gentlemen, now the three of us, let's get now into what's more our wheelhouse, which is the coverage of this and the lack thereof, of which we are just as guilty. I don't know if you guys got into this the day that I was gone, but this is the first opportunity we have had to discuss it. Frankly, there's been so much going on. I'll just be brutally honest with you. It slipped my mind for a couple of days that we had another assassination attempt. What does that say about us? That this is now just kind of a sunk cost headline. Hey, somebody tried to kill Trump again.
Listen, the people are the problem. We've got, you talked about how balkanized we are as a country. Well, we're balkanized as a right, whatever that is. We've got a huge section of the right obsessed with the Jews. We've got this huge section of the cult of Candace devotees who partially are obsessed with the Jews, but now also turning into the next chapter of the Erica soap opera. I don't know if you've been watching any Fox News, but I honestly couldn't believe it. Over at Fox News, they've literally every day at 4 o'clock been leading off their show on the Fox, leading it off every day with a Savannah Guthrie update.
Yeah.
Now, it's sad what happened to her mom, but that, like, leading on Fox every day? Because our side is not serious. That's why. And even amongst the talking points, this is what we say we believe. Then you look at the kind of families we're believing, and a lot of those people are raising the kind of families that are online all the time and that an FBI agent can go hunting after because we've got this thing on autopilot. We suck at the doing. We don't want to do. We resent having to do it. We're way too comfortable. Eureka.
Are you saying facts, truth is not good enough for us anymore? So if there's no drama, if there's no soap opera, then there's no story that captures our interest here.
Yeah, that goes a long way to understanding it. Except when you're Steve Friend, because actually he had a real life soap opera, but they didn't. He needed to go sit in the basement and think about it longer.
Aaron?
It's not just us. And yeah, I mean, that's true, but I had this in the montage the other day. It's, Trump is at this ceremony to sign a presidential proclamation to make February 22nd Angel Family Day in the United States. You would think that is probably the key issue by which he not only came to prominence in politics over a decade ago, but it was the key issue that led him back to the White House in 2024. And he's surrounded by these families, honoring these families who have had their family members murdered by illegal aliens. And he gets up there, and just as a passing thought, this was the day after this attempted assassination. And, the guy was trying to assassinate him, whether or not he was there at Mar-a-Lago. Fortunately, he was not. But he gets up there and he makes a passing comment. I don't know how much time I've got left.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people gunning for me, making a joke about it. Our own president is now making jokes about it. I'm not saying that that's not serious or that he's not taking it seriously, but that's just illustrative of how common this has become. Way too common. But here's the sad truth, as if that wasn't sad enough. How many times have we begged for pastors to be as much of a threat, to the spirit of the age, that they have to dodge bullets? And I don't wish that on any president or pastor for that matter. But there's a reason why the guy at the very top of our political structure, he's the one dodging the bullets. And that's the discourse that we've had over and over and over again on this show. He, once again, is an icon on the desktop, not the real program, but the icon on the desktop of what the spirit of the age thinks the rest of us are. And that's why he takes the brunt of the bullets, both rhetorically and increasingly physically.
Let's get to the exit question. I'm sorry, did somebody have somebody else they wanted to add or something else? No? Okay. Exit question. Are these would-be assassins all randos? Todd.
By that you mean don't have FBI button pushers?
They just organically
No.
all appeared?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
No. Aaron, what do you think?
Depends on, Bill Clinton is testifying to the House Oversight or whatever that committee is. Depends on What the definition of the word is depends on what the definition of the word random is. But in the context, I think you mean it. No.
What do you think, Steve? You'd be the most. That's why I saved you for last. You're the most qualified to answer this. What do you think?
No, and not particularly in the case of Thomas Matthew Crooks. I think there's a pretty compelling case that he was being groomed for an FBI terrorism case along the way. And because of the hubris of the FBI and the fact that they don't work weekends and they don't keep their targets of their investigations within a lungeable distance, he went off script and on a Saturday decided to grab his dad's rifle and go and take a successful shot at the president, a successful assassination attempt. He got a headshot. And then the FBI scrambled and went and testified to the Senate Judiciary Committee that they were looking at him as a potential domestic terrorist, which didn't make any sense. So they used the congressional baseball shooting as an excuse and said, well, we said that wasn't an assassination, so we're trying to take the blinders off. Meanwhile, they were trying to cover up that they likely had an open domestic terrorism case on Thomas Matthew Crooks, which would justify why they immediately returned his phone to his family and haven't had any progress since, and then even tried to combine it with another vulnerable person who was arrested in New York and parenthetically connected to Iran. And that individual, the FBI brought into the United States and allowed to travel into the interior of the country.
I'm short on time, man, but I would not be asked doing my job if I did not ask this question. And so, Steve, you can do the complete answer on your show. On my show, you only get a minute. Okay. What possible reason then would there be for this FBI not to reveal everything you just told us?
Because of the institution itself. There would be an outcry from anybody who is an honest assessor of what's going on objectively, saying this institution is broken. It has to be shattered into 1,000 pieces and scattered to the wind. And there are too many people that are whispering sweet nothings into the ears of the president and the people around him saying, we can't afford to lose this. Think of the downside, as opposed to actually looking at what's a factor on the ground.
Let's get to issue 4, kicker topic. If you could force Kash Patel to make a single Epstein-related arrest, whom would it be and why? Aaron.
Steve, friend, this is for you. Kash Patel. Can he arrest himself?
I am the Batman.
Yeah.
Todd, what's your answer?
It's got to be Clinton, right? I mean, the biggest fish.
Yeah.
That'll make things shake the most. I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems like that's obvious.
Steve, what's your answer?
I'm going to one-up Aaron. Pam Bondi, material breach of the Transparency Act. And as far as I can tell, I don't think the Dow over 50,000 protects elite pedophile rapists.
It doesn't? I'm going to look that up. Okay. I got several texts. I can't tell you the names. Okay. Names, a lot of you would know. I got texts from several people on the night of the State of the Union who were watching our coverage on the Blaze. And as the cabinet was coming in with the president, it's like Rubio, Hegseth, RFK Jr., and then it's Pam Bondi. And I'm just doing live, Mystery Science Theater commentary. I'm like, patriot, 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 embarrassment to the Republic. I got several texts from people who said they laughed out loud when they heard that. Let's get to our predictions. Aaron, you get to go first. Go.
Blocks will not be the first tech company to cut vast swaths of their workforce purportedly for AI. It's going to continue, not necessarily because AI is so great. It's just that the capital expenditures all of these companies are making for AI, you got to justify it somehow.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think, Todd? What's yours?
Tucker Carlson is going to make a run to be president of the United States.
In 28?
He's going to run.
Can he produce a series called Husband of Candace?
We should.
Yeah.
Maybe we could produce that. Subtitled, and we're just asking questions.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing here. We're just asking questions.
That was my favorite top rope you did regarding this whole thing that came out recently about, who the grifters are. And you just said, hey, have you seen my musical ensemble we did?
And we've been on this for months.
I know.
Yeah. I've been trying to make it a coordinated campaign. Goodness gracious, it finally is. Good. All right, Steve Friend, your prediction, go.
Barring a Joe Rogan-esque meteoric rise of the American Radicals podcast in the next couple of years, I believe the people of Volusia County, Florida in 2028 might have to weigh whether or not they should have a friend installed in the sheriff's office.
Wow.
Love Volusia County.
Yeah.
There's a lot of patriots down there.
Yeah. All right. That's good news to hear. I like hearing that. That's good. My prediction.
Can you
go ahead?
Can you enlist On Patrol Live to follow your department around? Are you talking about law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. You got to get On Patrol Live. I'd watch it every night.
My prediction is the looming release of all the UFO files that the president just ordered will not generate any critical mass of interest from the public whatsoever. But it will not be for the right reasons.
They're all the right reasons.
It will not be for the right reasons. It will be for the same reasons that half of American women age 30 are childless for the first time ever. And 50 years ago, that number was only 18%. For the same reasons that we actually are having less sex as a society than we used to, despite how overly saturated with it we are. These are indications of we can't even be properly titillated anymore. You know what I'm trying to say? Like this is the kind of story that should generate, even if you think it's a complete and total crock, a question like, are we alone in the universe or not, should generate. I mean, I go back to the sensation V was when we were kids. I mean, everybody was at school talking about that. That was one of the biggest miniseries moments of the 1980s. Okay, and then when Diana eats the mouse, and you see that there's actually reptiles and they're not really human. That was everybody. We all talked about that back in the day.
But then we got onto real life. Now real life is that all the time. Those side-by-side incel pictures you told us, that's all they do all the time.
So we're at the point now that we can't even be titillated in areas and tempted in the areas where we should be naturally titillated and tempted. You know what I mean? We've just essentially, as a people, largely just rolled over.
Yes.
That's kind of what we've done. Just kind of rolled over. And I mean, we're like
I've been saying we're too comfortable. I mean, yeah.
So I think that that nothing will come of it. Absolutely nothing. I don't think it'll garner much more interest than it currently and already has. Steve, good to see you as always, brother. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, good to see you, my friend. Look forward to seeing that. Is that Volusia? Is that what's the name of that county again that he said?
Volusia.
Volusia. Yep. All right, Volusia County in Florida. Look forward to that 2028 sheriff's race down there. All right, when we come back, it's going to be your turn on a Feedback Friday, and close to the top, I've got a couple of notes on both sides of the Tucker Huckabee thing. I'm going to share those because they give me an opportunity to share with all of you exactly where I'm coming from. For now, that position may change. But for now, this is where I'm coming down on it, and I want to make sure that you guys know why I'm doing what I'm doing, so we're as honest with you as we possibly can. And then we'll get to the rest of your feedback as much as we can next hour. Stay tuned.
Yeah! It's the SDS on your TV station. Turn it up. We roasting the whole crew. No hesitation. Hey, Ron, keep the show on track. Pushing all the buttons while he carries the pack. Mr. Smooth Operator, silent in his seat. If chaos is a fire, he control alt delete. He's the brain with the shades and the steely stare. Holding down the fort like he just don't care. When the tech goes boom and the screens go black, he's the wizard in the booth bringing everything back. Hey, 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 ho, ho. Steve Deace Group, run the show. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Pumpkin Spice Man, that's a no. Steve Deace preach truth like a prophecy bomb. Dropping hot takes louder than a car alarm. Talking killer wasps, pumpkin spice attacks. In times where the news better check those facts. Michigan warrior with the snow-covered frown. Shouting at the stats, man, calm down. Yet he's calling every shot like he owns the place. With the pumpkin spice flowing and the scowl on his face. Hey. DJ Scratch Sample. I said, oh ho. I said, oh ho. If you diss the crew, you get roasted cold. If you diss the crew, you get roasted cold. Toddy in the house dropping fashion crimes. Walks in the room, shirt 10 years behind. Master of disaster, chaos on his mind. Laughs so loud, neighbors calling 911 to complain about the crime. Sharp tongue swinging like a wrecking ball. He'll a dunk on your take and make you feel small. Did a tweet, start a fight, you can bet he's involved. Stir the pot, boom, the mystery solved. Who keeps the jokes flowing? The crew. Who keeps the truth showing? The crew. Who keeps the takes blowing? The crew. Steve, Aaron, Todd, you know what to do. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Steve Deace Crew, run the show. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Classic beats and a conservative flow. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Steve Deace Crew, run the beats and a conservative flow. DJ drop the mic, podcast kings. Freedom bells ring like ding-a-ling dings. Keep roasting, keep hosting, keep bringing the heat. SDS, that's the show you can't beat.
That was incredible. I had no idea that was coming. None.
You didn't know you needed some AI schlock in your
That was not that was not schlock. That was insanely cool. That was incredible. And frankly, as I'm watching that, I'm thinking, why raise millions of dollars to make the next nefarious film if we can do that? Holy crap. I could not believe how good that was. How much AI is in there?
So I did all the editing, but that's probably 80% AI. No, 90% AI.
So you've got to prompt it, go edit it, right?
Yeah, I didn't work super hard on getting things.
But you're giving it the direction you want it to perform.
Yeah,
that was incredible. Holy crap!
Did I tell either of you that I was working on
no.
this?
No. Did you know?
No, I just was told once to walk in this direction while he was filming something, and I said okay because I just.
You didn't know what for?
I was like the test case. Every once in a while, he has me do something to test some equipment. And so, I just dutifully said, yeah, whatever. I didn't ask any questions. And there it is.
That was incredible. I mean, that was absolutely incredible, Aaron. Holy cow.
You know what my favorite part was?
And
I don't know if Todd caught this, but Connor Stallions with the devil's horns for... a split second.
My favorite part is when Todd used his lightsaber to destroy the 95 Theses. That's the part that I liked.
The only disappointment was it wasn't red.
After I got done doing, oh boy, I should have made him.
I need the red lightsaber.
Should have made his lightsaber.
Give him
red.
the Darth Maul, the double red lightsaber. That was incredible. Holy cow, that was incredible. Wow. All right, you let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then if you would not mind, you can also, if you are a podcast listener, subscribe there. Just hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, you hit follow these days. And that's how you know now you're never going to miss an episode every time we do one of these things. Because you never know what's going to happen. Like Aaron just dropping some epic AI not schlock. I mean, that was incredible. Also, if you are a podcast listener, if you have not done this, please leave us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have, and we appreciate them all. So thank you for that. And this part of the show brought to you by one of our partners I definitely appreciate, and that is Chirp. And yes, I did. I took my Rolling Power Rolling Power mini massager with me, and it went powy when I pushed it on my sore parts. I brought it with me down to Dallas. I take it with me now wherever we go. Just one of those preventative health things, gizmos, doohickeys, devices, whatever you want to call them, that they've got at Chirp that go a long way to make sure that you can stay active, particularly as we get older. Preventative health is vital to that. And frankly, much of the healthcare system is a sick care system. So that's why a lot of times you got to go outside of it to places like Chirp to do your preventative health. Those trigger point rollers, there's a reason why when you go to the gym, the people that are in better shape than you are always using those things, right? Good rule of thumb is, if you can, try to do what the people in better shape than you are doing as best you can, because they probably know something you don't yet. They're getting results you have yet to see, right? So you can get the Chirp Contour. That's a decompression massage table. Trigger Points, the Power Mini Massager. They've got all that and more when you go to GoChirp, CHIRP. GoChirp.com/Steve. That's GoChirp.com/Steve. Again, head there now. GoChirp.com/Steve. All right. Are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
Think so.
All right, let's begin with a practical one here from Steve Waldman in Jackson, New Jersey. I'm getting this question more and more, okay? Hey, I would appreciate a little guidance on the best resource book on the childhood vaccine schedule. First grandchild is on the way, and I want to help guide my daughter and her husband the best way possible. You guys have a recommendation where that's concerned? I get this question a lot, and I've mentioned it on the show many times too.
Listen, you need two websites, Children's Health Defense and the Highwire. You absolutely get on there. They have all kinds of resource lists on a regular basis. One right now, one of the most modern books is Turtles All the Way Down that talks about this, but there's all kinds of titles going way back, and those are included on those 2 websites.
Vax Facts by Dr. Paul Thomas. Vax Facts by Dr. Paul Thomas.
Yeah, he's one of the OGs.
Okay. All right. Now let's get to the matter that I teased, and I'm just going to share both of these back to back. They're both from guys named Mark, just different Marks. All right. And I'm going to share.
Are they?
They are. I made sure of it. They are. Because I knew what you guys were going to say. Yeah. Mark, the first Mark says, I used to think very highly of your show, but Tucker Carlson is a POS, and after your show yesterday, so are you. I'll miss you guys, and I wish you all the best. That part, I love that part at the end.
Go have yourself.
That's it?
Wish you the best.
Yes. That's it on that one. Yeah, that's it on that one. Mark in Bowling Green, who wrote a really long note, so I had to trim it up, which don't make that a practice. I usually don't have the time to do that. But given this subject matter and what I want to address, I took some time to do this. A lot of times, if your note is long and it doesn't capture me in 2 or 3 sentences, I just kind of move on because I don't have time, guys. All right. So this is rare for me to clean up a note and try to present an abbreviated version to get on the air. But because I think this matter is important for me to discuss, I chose to do it this one time. The most obnoxious argument Huckabee made by far was that you can't agree with Tucker and also love Trump. This kind of BS is why we always get hit with the Trump loyalist cult nonsense. I'm not loyal to Trump. He's doing my bidding at times. It sounds like Huckabee wants a Trump cult where we all just follow him, and Huckabee is the reason Democrats always hit us with this BS claim that we're a bunch of brainwashed followers. As a student of sociopathic manipulators, Huckabee is using a lot of their standard tactics. Maybe Tucker tries it sometimes too, but Huckabee is way worse. Okay. Oh, there's 3. There's one more. Okay. This one is from Chip Tillman in Bozeman, Montana. Really disappointed in your show yesterday. I love Mike Huckabee. He's an honorable man. He's one of us. He told us that Tucker Carlson lied. Huckabee also told us that Tucker Carlson willfully and intentionally released carefully edited snippets from their interview to misrepresent what Huckabee said about Israel's borders and territorial ambitions. And Tucker specifically sent this to Arab leaders. Why? To damage our relationships, and that with Arab leaders that Trump has so carefully nurtured. Tucker's not stupid or careless. People have been repeatedly and deservedly giving Tucker the benefit of the doubt on really bad judgments in multiple recent instances. Here's how I look at it. Candace Owens' lies about Charlie's beloved widow, Erica. Tucker has repeatedly lied about Trump, Israel, Epstein, president of Israel, and now Huckabee. Who's the father of all liars? Candace Owens is willfully damaging our coalition. Tucker is willfully damaging our coalition. So I think they're one and the same. Forgive me, but I was gobsmacked. Good use of that term, by the way. I love that word. It should be used more often. I was gobsmacked at your lack of reaction to Huckabee presenting evidence that Tucker willfully misrepresented his statements directly to Arab leaders. He called Tucker a liar, and then none of you addressed it and just acted like, okay, cool. You seem to be tiptoeing around and avoiding this key explosive issue directly. All right. I want to explain to you guys how I'm approaching this situation and why. Okay? Number one, the current default position that Christianity has regarding the nation of Israel has not always been, throughout the history of Christendom, the current default position. And the truth of the matter is, rightly or wrongly, that you could look at several key figures throughout the history of the church, and the stuff that they said about the Jews is not all that different than what you're hearing from people today that I agree are using anti-Semitic tropes and languages. Historically, there has not been a great relationship between Christianity and Judaism on either end. Jews who saw Yeshua as Messiah were essentially purged from their families, seen as turncoats, that they had betrayed Moses and their heritage and culture. And there are numerous moments throughout the history of Christendom where we treated Jews terribly, persecuted them, and blame them for the crucifixion of Christ, which is anathema to our own theology, which is Christ died for his enemies, Jew and Gentile alike. My point being, there's not a lot of good guys in this very hotly contested debate on either side for much of history. It's just Christianity had more of a hegemony in culture to express its animosity more often than Jews did after 110 AD. And essentially the loss of their nation and way of life for the next 1900 plus years until the current nation of Israel was formed. As I go through this, anybody want to dispute any of my factual claims I just made?
No.
No. Now we have another factual claim, however, that earlier eras of history, of church history, that did not look kindly upon the Jews and wrote books like The Jews and Their Lies. Okay, we have another present reality we have to wrestle with, though, that they never did. They all lived in an era after the apostles died out. Christianity lived in an era where there was no nation called Israel as a sanctuary or homeland for the Jewish people until May of 1948. That's nearly a millennia. So therefore, I would argue the ability to entertain certain narratives and tropes and biases and prejudices when there's not a nation state that inhabits those prejudices that you then have to recognize and deal with in a real world, kind of convenient at that moment, if you know what I'm trying to say. But now, we do have such a nation, do we not?
Yes.
Whether or not you agree that that nation called Israel today is the prophetic fulfillment of Old Testament ancient Israel, whether you agree with that or not, is there not a nation called Israel today?
Yes.
Is it not primarily made up, not exclusively, but primarily made up of Jews?
Yes.
Is it primarily seen as a sanctuary homeland for the Jewish people?
Yes.
And what occupies, not all, certainly, but at least a significant portion of the landmass that was also at the time known as Old Testament Israel, thousands of years ago.
Yes.
Okay. That same nation, again, regardless of what you think, that exists, and you aren't going to be able to undo it because of what I'm about to say next, does it also not have one of the most devastatingly effective, precise, and powerful militaries on planet Earth?
Yes.
All right. So if those things are all findings of fact, there are some sectors of Christianity that are acting as if they don't have to deal with those things. That is pre-1948. And we can entertain certain idiosyncrasies or ideologies or tropes or narratives because we're not going to really be confronted with them in a real world. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But we are being confronted with it because there is a nation called Israel.
This is the point I was trying to make yesterday with popes, how they treat
Israel post
now versus they did at the beginning of the 20th
because Mike Huckabee
century.
said yesterday the last few popes have all been in favor of the nation of Israel, so does that make them Zionists? Well, popes prior to 1948, as you've pointed out, were not in favor of the reconstitution of the nation of Israel. But now there is one, and we have to live in a real world as it is, okay? So with those things all being facts, here's another one. We are in the midst of a massive generational transition within Christianity in the West. And we are having debates as part of that generational transition that need to occur and will occur, will not be stopped. You cannot stop these debates from occurring. Just like you can't stop there. So if you're very anti-Israel, you are not, you blog to your heart's content. Drop every anti-Semitic trope you want. You wouldn't last a nanosecond with 3 guys in the Mossad. They take you out. Won't make a difference. Won't make a difference. Because we've already established this country does exist, and it has one of the most powerful, precise, dominant militaries in the world, correct?
Yes.
So all your blogs and all your thoughts and all your, well, here's what Luther said and here's what this guy said means nothing. All right, it might gain you clicks, but it will have no impact on the body politic reality of this world because of what we just said whatsoever, will it? Nothing. Right. Nothing. By the same token, if you're on the other end of this debate, I want to make it very clear, I don't view myself as above this debate at all. I'm going to talk about that in a second too. I'm trying to make sure it's in a debate. But if you're way on the other end of this debate and you are convinced that this is the prophetic reconstitution of Israel, you cannot stop this debate from happening. You don't control all of big tech. You don't control everybody's thoughts. This debate's going to go down whether you want it to happen or not. You may not like it. It may make you uncomfortable. You may have really good reasons, frankly, based on how we've conducted this debate so far to be uncomfortable, for being honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to go down. It's going to happen. And even if Tucker Carlson is everything you fear he is, then let me give you some advice. You want this debate to occur then and out in the open. You don't want to email me, as several of you did, and said, I cannot believe you invited Tucker on your show. You want to hope he shows. You want everybody's motivations and true thoughts out in the open. That's what you want. Let's say that Tucker is who you fear he is. Attempting to preemptively shun him before he has fully revealed what his real motivations are, you're going to turn him into what you fear. You see what I'm trying to say? It's because you may think that he's becoming what you fear that you want everything out in the open and let people see for themselves. Because I will say this, I could guess, but I have no idea how Tucker wants the world reset based on the arguments that he's making. Has he communicated that at all, one single time?
Well, if he's tried, it's been very unclear at the end.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea how he wants the world reset. So he wants us to, I'm confused at times. Do you guys want us involved in the Middle East or not? Well, I don't want Israel to have a nuclear weapon any more than I want Iran. Well, Israel has one. It's not official, but it's kind of accepted truth of intelligence. So you guys want us to send the United States military into Israel to get rid of their nuclear program? How would we get rid of Israel's nuclear program? Do you know how we would do that?
I do not.
See what I'm saying? What is it you want? We never get told what you want instead. And I think that's precisely why this debate needs to happen. If you are on the Zionist side, and most of my friends are, not all, but most of my friends are. If you are on, or at least the mildly Zionist side, like I'm willing to accept Israel as an ally because it's a nation and there's nothing we can do about it, like what I just said, and you fear what Tucker is doing, the dumbest thing you could do is to stop him from talking. The smartest thing you could do is to let that puppy breathe. In fact, let's talk all the time. Let's get down, Don Henley, to the heart of the matter here. What is it? What world do you want instead?
That's a good Don Henley pull, by the way.
Did you like that one?
I did.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we don't know. Everybody knows what people like Mike Huckabee think and why. And people can make up their minds about that. I have no idea what Tucker wants instead. I don't. Without divulging our private conversations over this weekend, I'll just say this in general. I still do not know. I still don't know what he wants. He's very blunt about telling us what he doesn't like. I'm not really sure what he wants instead. Now, there's two possible reasons for that. He himself does not know, and he's just kind of figuring this out as he goes along. That's entirely possible, right?
Yes.
It's also possible he does know, but he doesn't want to reveal to us yet quite what it is yet until he's properly deconstructed the other viewpoint and is not behaving with intellectually curious, if not problematic motivations, but more sinister ones. That's also possible. We don't know. I'd like to think the second one's not possible, but I don't know Tucker well enough to say that it's not. And neither do most of the people that are having these conversations around the world or around the country. So guess what we should be doing? Let the sun shine, let the sun shine in. Let's talk more. Let's have these conversations more. What world do you want instead? And maybe it's just as simple as, I want to live in a world where the United States just doesn't give a rip whether there's a nation called Israel or a nation called Palestine, and we don't give a rip about the Middle East whatsoever, and we just build massive moats and walls around the country. We can all debate whether that's a feasible position to have or not, but at least that we would know, right?
Sure.
Except what we do see Tucker do is we see him go to places all over the Middle East and not argue for that, but instead often repeat propaganda from those same Middle Eastern Muslim countries. We see that actually quite often, right?
Yeah.
See, this is why people are questioning his motivations. I think it is paramount we have this debate, because this conversation is going to happen one way or the other. I would like to see it happen with the most sunlight possible. One of the main missions of my show from the beginning has been, when I first started out, the reason I did biblical worldview stuff is I was trying to mobilize the broadest consensus of Christian thought that I could. It was only when I got into this for the first couple of years and realized there's not a lot of Christian thought out there. I'm going to have to do like apologetics, worldview. I thought I was just going to do activism. I didn't realize I was going to have to do worldview formation. So my first order as an American Christian is to save America. I live in America. I don't live in Israel. I don't live in Jordan. I don't live in Qatar. I live in America. And I think it's going to be really hard to do that if we all blow each other up over the Israel question. So as much as I possibly can, and also because I understand, because I've studied it, I understand the historical nuances here. I know where Todd's coming from as a Catholic. I know where my buddy Jack Hibbs is coming from. I know where Doug Wilson's coming from. I know exactly when they use terms like super secessionism or replacement or fulfill. I know what all these terms mean. Most people don't. And I'm trying to, as best I can, follow Charlie's model of not letting this just blow each other up, and therefore our coalition in America in the process. Which is why I think we ought to talk. Which is why I went and did Webbin's thing last year. It wasn't for a $3,500 honorarium. That's way lower than my going rate, by the way. It's not why I did it. Okay? I did it for all the reasons we're talking about right here. Because if we don't really find out what everybody thinks and why, we are going to blow each other up over this. In this country where we actually live, we're toast. We're the last line of defense. Spirit-filled believers are the only reason this country is not France right now. My son even has these questions. I know what home he grew up in. I know what churches he went to. He even comes up to me and asks, "Hey man, do we really have to be as pro-Israel as we are?" We even have these conversations between the two of us. So if my son has these questions and I'm his dad, what kind of questions do you think all kinds of other kids, young men probably have all over America that we probably just come now and let us reason together? Let's have these kinds of conversations. And let me say this to the other side. You look suspicious when you don't want to have these conversations and debates. You are feeding the tropes that you're concerned about. Why do you have something to hide? So those of you that have the traditional Zionist position that's been the default among American Christians in the last generation, my advice to you is it's a terrible look to try to stifle this discussion and debate. It makes you look like you have something to hide. And I would also say, if Tucker is everything you fear he is, that's exactly why you want to let him talk. You're way more likely to convince people of that truth if they hear it from Tucker himself than if you put words in his mouth. Not to mention Tucker Carlson has a body of work and a body of character and integrity in how he's treated people in this business, including yours truly, that at least should be factored in to what our ongoing assessment of his current actions are. Agreed?
Yeah.
That is, but by the way, is there a statute of limitations on that?
For him and for everyone else?
Absolutely there is. There are lines that could be crossed. I kind of think you're at least approaching such a line when you say, why don't we just line up all the Jews for DNA testing? And then I think for those of you on the other side, there is a nation called Israel. It's not going anywhere. If it wanted to, it could have wiped Iran off the map 50 years ago. And most in Lebanon and Syria and most of the Middle East, frankly. If it wanted to commit a genocide, there's no such thing as a Palestinian anyway, frankly. They could have made that reality. You're not getting rid of You're not getting rid of Israel. Maybe they do, maybe they don't have, maybe this iteration does or does not have God's favor. What I do know it does have is a military tougher than you and your blog and your ex-posts. That I know. I know that. You're not making it go anywhere. So you got to start living in a world where the reality is there's going to be a Jewish nation in the Middle East. It's not going anywhere soon. Got to start fashioning how you're going to live with that. And stop playing in this fantasy land as if that's not going to be the case. And then you need to tell the rest of us, what do you want instead? My own position is, I am a Zionist. I don't need a religious reason for it. It's just very simple. I do not want Islamic hegemony anywhere in the world. Anywhere. Lots of people die every time that happens. So if we're not going to have Islamic hegemony in the Middle East where most of Islam is, that gives two options for who could be the check and balance. Us or another nation. I don't know about you. I'm all in favor of it being another nation. Amen on that?
It helps.
So if Israel would like to be that check and balance on Islamic hegemony where most of Islam is located, by golly, go get them. And I'm happy to be supportive of that. And I think Trump's ability to do deals with the Islamic world has been because he's got a Jewish ally there to play off of. Hey, you guys don't want to cut a deal? Cool. Saw that Moab I dropped on Syria. I'm just going to give like 10 of those to Israel. How you like them apples? Oh, you want a deal? Okay, let's talk. Now, I will say, the amount of darkness that I do see from sectors of the anti-Israel side, which can only be supernatural in nature, and not to mention everybody who has been attacking a widow named Erica Kirk is also within those sectors of the anti-Israel side. You guys have me rethinking maybe there is some prophetic significance to this Israel. Because that crap is supernatural. But my first goal is to save the country I live in and have as broad of a coalition of spirit-filled believers to that end as I possibly can. More in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Do you guys have any quick thoughts on what I just laid out and why I'm handling this? Oh, one more thing I should say. I don't think Tucker and Candace are the same. At least not yet. Candace's body of work can't hold Tucker's jockstrap, number one. Number two, the discussions and debates that Tucker is having, even if he's not always having them in an intellectually honest manner, are about issues that matter and do determine the destiny of nations. All that Candace is doing is just turning satanic slander into a business over things that either don't matter or are none of our business. Now, you guys' thoughts on what I just said, particularly starting with you, Todd, as the show ombudsman here.
I think you did the best you could within this context to love your neighbor as yourself. But I think you're fighting more than just this issue and these two men, personalities, etc., titles, which are enough in of themselves to get past. But you're fighting what a lot of people out there just want, and that is their precious talking points behind anonymous screen names, and that's what they love the most. And so you're talking about sunlight, Steve, and having arguments out in the open. That's go all the way back to Socratic dialogue, to the Lord taking his arguments right to the faces of those who needed to hear them. We have way too many people and way too many, again, on the so-called right whose whole ball game is anonymity and not being held accountable, and they love it, and that's very hard to come all by itself. Whether you're talking about Jews and Tucker or Mike Huckabee.
Yeah. So just full transparency, I kind of had the same outlook on Tucker that you heard expressed from a few of the letter writers, which was basically shutting the door. Now, I think as believers, for basically anybody, we at least need to leave 1% prodigal son, 1% room for repentance, at the very least. Always room for repentance. Now, that might just be 1%, and that doesn't mean that we're not shaking the dust from our sandals and moving on.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'm not saying that these people are condemning him to hell or anything like that. I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but I'll say I was about 95% time to shut the door on Tucker Carlson, and you've mentioned this on the show. I'm not going to say anything you haven't said, but you've kind of given Todd and I some general indication of what some of your conversations have been like, and so maybe I'm at 90% right now. But I think the key part of this that needs to be underscored is that this debate is happening whether we like it or not, and that Israel is going to be here and probably continue to be here whether we like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I've said repeatedly, trying to take a realistic view of the world, that means neither pessimism nor optimism abounds. And I think that's the realist position. So bone up and get ready to engage.
All right, let's move on. Nathan Lizaraga writes, I'm 21 and I'm trying to identify the next action steps in my life. Number one, do you have any suggestions for books that could help me improve my debating skills? Yeah. Rules for Patriots. I'd suggest that. Easy to read, simple. I know the author pretty personally. So I think that's a pretty good book for such a thing. Thoughts?
It is a very helpful rubric, which is why we used it. But in terms of debating skills, I'd just say it's not just one book. There is no replacement for just knowing stuff.
We're going to get to that too. But
okay,
yes.
you got to start just reading.
Yeah. Which brings his second question. What about big theological topics, specifically like Calvinism versus Arminianism? Do you have any book suggestions on that topic? Here's what I would do. I'd learn as much as I possibly could about what the Bible says about these two topics, and let the Holy Spirit inform me of what it says. And then I would probably, at that point, then maybe go look for external books to challenge my preconceptions, to make sure I'm rightly dividing things and not reading things into it. Rather than looking for books to tell me what the Bible says, let the Bible tell you what it says first. And then I think it's totally fine to go read what authors and commentaries and stuff have said. But there's just like, it's totally fine when you're at an impasse with your wife to talk to your dad, talk to your mom, talk to a friend, right? Maybe a counselor, pastor. How do I get over this impasse? That can be very helpful, useful information, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But is there any real, but should it be a substitute though for intimacy with your wife? No, those are all supplements, correct?
Yes.
There's no replacement for it, right? And so the number one reason God preserved his word for you, Nathan, is intimacy. Have a one-on-one relationship with you. So I would earnestly let the word of God speak on these topics first, and then test the spirits and your own understanding of what you think God's word says by finding learned people on both sides and their arguments. But this will win me no friends, but I've made a career out of that. The reality is, your position on Calvinism and Arminianism will have no bearing on the success of what you want to do next. He says, I want to equip other young Christians to defend their faith and encourage them to know their Bible. And I don't know where to start outside of being a good example for my family and friends. That is exactly where to start. That's exactly where to start. And there are people who are Calvinists and Arminians who don't start there and don't have a testimony of integrity and then aren't being used of the Lord because of that. You mentioned you wanted to kind of follow in Charlie's footsteps. So he wants to know, hey, what's a good example? Charlie's. What did Charlie do? He just went and did it. Did Charlie wait until he had critical mass of fundraising to start just showing up on college campuses? No. Just went and did it. Just go. The late D. James Kennedy used to say, the one thing you'll never find in the Bible, an evangelism plan. They were told to just go. Were they given a 10-point plan of exactly where to go, who to raise money from, who to talk to, how to incorporate? Were they given any of that information? No. And instead, they formed the most powerful movement in the history of the world. So I just go start walking onto college campuses, man. See if your parents got a fold-up table in the basement and a chair. Everybody's got one of these things that can record 8K now in their pocket, right? You know?
Yes.
Okay. I just get a little stand for it. Plop down a table and a chair and hit record and start going to work. Just start doing it. That's what I would do. If you wait for, I say this to young men all the time. You're never ready to be a husband and a father. You're never ready. Sometimes there are definitely times you're less not ready than others. Let's make sure we say that, okay? But the idea that you're fully ready, you still get hit with stuff you're not ready, you weren't prepared for, you didn't think were going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah, how long have you been a dad now?
22 years.
22 years, yeah. I've been one for 25 years. I get hit with stuff all the time I wasn't sure about, didn't think was going to happen, didn't plan for. You're never ready, and there's never enough money. Right? So it's never, hey, I have a critical mass of resources, and then I go do what God wants me to do. No, go do what God wants you to do, and he'll take care of the critical mass of resources if you're doing what he wants you to do. Where are we going next? Let's go here to James Caravias. As a Christian, I know it is against God's word if I were to have sex outside of marriage. I also believe it would be wrong for me to have someone of the opposite sex that I am interested in living in my house, even if we do not sleep together or have sex. But sometimes it is financially advantageous not to get married under our current tax structure. I was wondering if you had a church service for a wedding but did not get legally married, would that still be against God's word? So I thought this would be fascinating for us to discuss. All right. Were there marriages of believers before the state took an interest in the institution? Let's start there. Did the institution, what came first? The institution of marriage come first, or a nation state's interest in the institution of marriage? Which came first?
Marriage.
Marriage did. So that would seem to indicate that marriage is not under the jurisdiction of the state, correct? Because if the state didn't initiate it, who did? God, right? So that would seem to indicate, so traditionally, particularly in the post-Reformation world, Christianity has divided the world into four sectors: the self, the family, the church, and the state. And that each of these four sectors have a certain amount of autonomy, agency, and responsibility and jurisdictional authority. And that sometimes they overlap with one another, but only in limited areas. So therefore, marriage existed as an institution before nation states took an interest in it. Do we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
We all agree. So that would seem to indicate, therefore, there is a jurisdiction for the institution of marriage that the state either did not establish nor can alter. Correct?
Yeah.
And so that's why are we all for gay marriage now because the state known as the United States believes that it can alter it?
We are not.
No, because it's an institution that doesn't belong to the state, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's take this same argument to where he is concerned. If the state said that Christians could no longer marry, should Christians obey that?
No.
No. All right, so you see what I'm doing? I'm establishing parameters here where it is very clear the edicts of the state cannot redefine nor restrict a relation, nor restrict an institution that it didn't create and therefore is not under its singular jurisdiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me give you an example. Let me give you one that's really practical. Couple wants to get married. They were engaged to be married. In fact, I know somebody with a story like this. That's why I'm using it. They were engaged to be married. The fiance, the male fiance, had, I think it was a stroke. The way that his health coverage, insurance, and everything else would work out, they would actually get more money to help him recover and live with disability because he's disabled the rest of his life. They would be better off not getting married. So the question that they had was, we would like to get married, but if we get in a marriage recognized by the state, it'll alter the level of coverage and support that we will get for his affliction. So what do we do? What should they do? Would you be okay with a priest marrying them quietly, secretly, without any kind of citation from the state in that kind of a circumstance? Would you be okay with that as a Catholic?
I think so.
Aaron, what about you as a Protestant? Would you be okay with a pastor doing that?
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, we're certainly opening up gray areas for sure. Okay.
Well, if we go, but so far, all with the letter that spurred this, we're doing thinking exercises, very important.
Yep.
But there were no extraneous circumstances within the letter itself. So unless, rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar and rendering unto God's what is God's, an able-bodied young man should, with no extraneous circumstances, should exhaust all normative, because it is a totally legitimate enterprise for the state to tax. It is not an immoral exercise like redefining marriage, and therefore, unless you have options, you can move to different states, you can run for office yourself and get things changed.
Yep.
To just kind of not want to pay it, but not be part of the solution as a citizen. This is where I have I would say, based on what you've provided me, I would tell you not to do that.
This is why I went beyond his example to see if first and foremost we thought there were instances where this would apply. Okay? So let's go beyond his situation and create things that could happen. Would these situations exist? We all agreed these kinds of situations probably have existed and could, right? So then we now make our way back, as you did, Todd, to his particular situation, and just if the tax bill is punitive, is that good enough? Sounds like you believe, given the options you have, okay, at your disposal, all right, in order to not just sit there and accept such a punitive endeavor, you think that in this case it does not apply, even if the principle at times might. But it doesn't apply here.
Correct.
Aaron, what do you think?
So I share the same. Kind of considerations that Todd pointed out. I think ultimately you have to test your own motivations, because there could be, in the situation that you just spelled out, Steve, I mean, why would you be getting married in secret?
Mm-hmm.
What is the motivation for that? Just deception on some level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is deception in the Bible always
No.
used for ill?
Nope.
No.
Not at all.
But if you're trying to scam, that's a different story.
Right.
So you have to always check your own motivations.
So it sounds like we do not believe, unless we're talking like 90, some incredulous number, we do not believe punitive taxation, as far as our current system of government, warrants this kind of an exception. We don't believe that.
Not writ large, no.
Now, that doesn't mean that no system, like if, we had a Roman Empire and they wanted to take your last family's donkey and ability to eat, see what I'm saying? But again, are we living in that era? No. Are there ways to avoid that kind of a circumstance, as you pointed out? Yes.
I want everybody to start showing up as men and do their damn job as citizens. And then if you still don't get recourse for reasons, talk to me. But first, we got to start showing up.
Basically, I'm in favor of reprogramming the Kobayashi Maru, as we all know. But this doesn't strike me as a no-win scenario.
Oh, it's not even close to it.
Now, I agree that we all agree there were no-win scenarios where maybe we have to reprogram the Kobayashi Maru, right? But I don't know that, brother, that any of the three of us think that this is that kind of a no-win scenario.
Right.
Just based on what you told us. There may be more details that you tell us later, but just based on what you told us, no. But we do think such scenarios do exist in general. Yes. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. We're back at it again on Monday. Hope you have a great weekend. Until then, go hard, Romans 8:28.